Welcome to the Middle-aged Bodcast with me, Raging Rich.
And me, T.A. Shelano.
T.A., it is season 3. We say it every week, and it's still early days in the season, but lots of good stuff to talk about.
Yeah, I think so. And I think we can sort of be sort of clear to the listeners on where we're at. It's the 25th of January, not when you're listening, but while we're sat here today. And it's been a couple of weeks since we did the first episode, where we sort of started the sort of weight loss challenge, etc. And I think, should we kick off with where we're going with that a little bit? Yeah, so let's open up then, having a look at the stats and see where we're at. So we started in episode 1 a couple of weeks ago, and I weighed in at 19 stone 5 pounds, which is 123.2 kilos. You were there at 19 stone 4 pounds, which is 122.7 kilos. So pretty much, give or take, neck and neck. Although, yes, you were slightly lighter. Not a lot. Bag of sugar's a bag of sugar, though, eh? And then, so we've done, obviously, weigh-ins for the last 2 weeks. Yeah, so week 1, I thought, you know what? Let's make this challenge harder. So I put some weight on. Just a pound, but that took me up to 19 stone 6, which is 123.6 kilos, and you stayed the same at 19.4, 122.7 kilos. And then this week's weighing, I'm down to 19 stone 3 pounds, which is 122.2 kilos, and you've gone up a pound to 19 stone 5, which is 123.2 kilos. So, yeah, we, I guess, shall have a bit of a reflection in this episode now of the last 2 weeks. A bit of a chat about other things that have been going on. I wanted to bring in in our New Year's Eve episode, I talked about the idea I'd seen online of writing something down each week and putting it in a jar. Mrs. Shelano and I are doing that every week. So that's something that we've kept that habit going so far, and putting those in the tin, and then talking a little bit about on the creative side of things, about what's happening with the writing. But yeah, let's start then around the weight. So I'm down 2 pounds over the 3 weeks of January we've been weighing in, and you're up a pound, and we're now 2 pounds between us. So let's hear your sort of reflections on the last couple of weeks from your point of view.
I think the one good thing is not putting on loads more weight again. I've been eating better, cooking more. We spoke about that in the first episode, which has been really useful. And obviously, if I'm going to my lady friends, as we call that, or let's just call her Ruth, and if I'm going...
and that's a red letter moment here, and you just dropped it in as if that was just a point there. We were literally lady friend, LF, all these different things we were using. We were not using her real name.
I'm sorry.
And now, lo and behold, she has authorised for you to use her first name on the podcast. So hello, Ruth, if you're listening. I know that you are an avid listener, so you will be. And, you know, who knows? It could be that you come and do an episode, Raging Rich and Raging Ruth. Who knows? the ideas
You've
are
been
there.
dying to make that joke all day.
I have, yeah. But I'm glad you've been able to clarify that we're allowed to use that.
Yeah, but the thing is, Ruth's really good with the cooking. She's really good with... do you remember... in one of the seasons when you were talking about how Mrs. Shelano could create a meal out of anything, That's kind of how Ruth is. She can just go, this is what I've got in the fridge and in the cupboards, and make something.
Yeah.
And I know I touched upon the soup that I made with a bit of guidance from her earlier this year. But I've been just eating a lot better, and I have found that. Obviously, there are times when I'm at work or I'm here at home on my own, and I'm kind of if things get to you, my big thing is, I'm going to go and have a biscuit, or I'm going to go and have this, and I've got to cut that kind of thing out. And I'm not saying cut treats out, but completely, but just eating things because you're fed up or you're down a bit or things like that. But I've been eating a lot better. She's fantastic spaghetti bolognese, and I've had that a couple of times. That's delicious. Actually, last night she brought round some pulled pork that she'd done the night before, so reheated that up and had some pulled pork sandwiches. That was really nice. So I'm eating a lot better, and I'm finding that is really helping me to just feel better as well.
So in essence, then you've got a better quality of food now. That you're getting.
It's not just the food. She is awesome as well. I should point that out. You're just saying I'm cooking you food. Well, I have cooked for her as well, of course, with the satay and my signature enchiladas.
It is the modern world, Rich, and it was sounding a bit like, I got together with my lady friend Ruth. And now I get to eat better because she cooks me loads of meals. It sounds slightly.
I have been trying to pull my weight with the cooking, and I have said to her I'm going to do more of that. So I'm learning a lot more, and I've set myself a little challenge. I've got a bit of time off coming up, and I am going to be looking at some recipes and perfecting a few things during that time. So that's kind of become the plan. And at some point, believe it or not, the fish pie from a prior episode may make an appearance and actually get cooked by me, so that'll be an interesting.
Well, won't it just? But also on the chicken satay, I have had a listener contact me who was catching up on episodes, who was a bit behind. Bear with me, and they were very interested, obviously, in trying to find out what's going on. And I sort of said, look, he's finally going to talk about in the first episode the satay, etc. But he was disappointed. The listener said he thought you meant to cook it like for me, and I'm like. No, he still hasn't cooked it for me. He cooked it for his lady friend. I was like, we still know. So that is another thing. He thinks that you do need to cook the satay for me and Mrs. Shelano. So that's the other thing.
Okay, that's on. So that's doable. So we can do that.
And I think the other thing to point out is that there's clearly been a mass impact. Because I understand that takeaway sales on your road are down 68% since you've been with... I'll still refer to her as the lady friend. And so there's every cloud, there are some businesses that this isn't so good. But
well, we also did. I do want to point this out because it was brilliant, and I did actually mention this on the podcast socials. We went mini golf and darts last weekend, which was brilliant. And I've got to say, like, these kind of little places that are out there now for doing these kind of events and things, and whether it's couples weekend, an event, something to do as a couple or something to do as a family. There's so many brilliant things out there now. But that was really cool because you could play bullseye at the darts, and there was just this great nostalgia. And as I said to you earlier off air, unfortunately I did not win a speedboat.
Okay, when Jim Bowen wasn't there.
Jim Bowen was not there, unfortunately.
Okay. Well, that's quite interesting. And I mean, on the social events point as well, we have got a couple of social events coming up this week. So we're gonna have some challenges to the podcast this week coming, but it is what it is. We will find our way through it. But yeah, from a personal point of view, I was disappointed. Obviously, having kind of started and then put a pound on, but I hadn't eaten well enough, and I think this is the point around accountability as well. I hadn't, and I knew I hadn't, and so when I stepped on the scales today, I was like, "Yeah, there's no way this is probably going to be better than the first weigh-in," and it wasn't. And that's it's okay. You go right. You really need to get this sorted now. And I'll be honest, I think I ate a lot better than in the last sort of week or so. And when I then stepped on the scales, I was it was more expectation than hope that there'd be a reduction. I didn't necessarily think there'd be as much as a reduction as the 3 pounds in the 1 week. But yeah, and I felt like, well, actually, you have been much more disciplined in terms of that, which is usually my biggest issue. I often kind of get sometimes into these realms of sort of exercise and fitness and things like that. And it's the diet bit that's always the bad bit. Whereas at the moment, I'm kind of like trying to focus a little bit more around the diet, interspersed with exercise as well, and trying to keep that momentum and just keep things moving, really.
You know what's really interesting with the exercise side? and I mentioned this to you earlier as well.
Mm-hmm.
I actually signed up to the Strava app as a little bit of a test. They're doing something at work, like a little team. What are you laughing at?
Did you misread it and think it was the Prava app?
No. I wondered what was going.
Other Czech beers are available, but
I mean, you know, I did go to Prague a couple of years ago, so I have gotten into my Czech beers.
I couldn't help that. But go on, Strava.
But so Strava, and basically, there's this thing they've started doing at work, and I haven't taken part in it, but they're using it to do a few challenges and sort of like try and get fit and a little bit more movement and things like that. I thought, oh, well, I've got to go and do a little bit of a walk to the tram stop. So I thought, well, I'll sign up on the app and I'll do it. And actually, it was really cool because it gives you that little bit of, it shows you your route, it shows you sort of the sort of steps that you've taken. You know, it gives you if there's an incline as you're walking and all that kind of data. And I've only done that one particular one for now, but it does mean now that when I am at work on my lunch break and I'm walking around, because I spend all of my lunch break walking around. I'm not like sat still or anything. I am moving around and doing stuff. So I can go and have a good walk and start logging some of that. And I think that'll be really helpful as well. And hopefully just motivate me a little bit more to be using that and doing a bit more. And maybe that's something I need to do. I know we mentioned the exercise bike. It's still not been getting any use. And I think part of the problem with that is because it's just there. Like, there's no motivation to sort of... I've got it in my bedroom at the moment, and it's kind of that motivation.
Are you going to get back on the exercise bike, yes or no?
I don't know. Probably. Going to have to if you're beating me on the old...
Because I think that's the thing, isn't it? It's that finding that challenge. Can you set, like, a time, and you go, well, I'm going to do 15 minutes?
I think the problem was I wasn't doing it on time. So my dad gave me this idea, and he said, what you should do is you should play a song, and you should just... go as comfortably as you can for that one song, and then after a few days you build up to doing 2 songs and cycling to 2 songs. For the record, I can't actually ride a bicycle, so the exercise bike is the only time I'm...
I didn't know that.
You do? I've said this many times.
Have you?
Yeah. No, I've never been able to ride a bike.
Okay. I don't think... I must have known this, but I'm sitting here thinking, really? Did I know this? It's terrible because I've known you so long, and I'm like, really?
23 and a half years.
Who's counting? He says during the 23 and a half episode. Yeah, okay. So that's fine.
But I do need to do more. I do need to find more motivation to do exercise. I'm not great with exercise. I haven't been ever really, and I do need to do more of it. I
mean, you've got to try and keep the positive somewhere. In terms of if we look at your stats, for example, you are, even at this point, I think, still £10 down on the beginning of season 1.
I do a lot of walking around. That's one thing, obviously. I do a fair bit of walking around and stuff like that. And I don't go for long walks. It's just sort of walking from my commute to work and on my lunch breaks and things like that. And it's only walking around, I'll go to the shops and I'll walk around as I'm browsing and things like that. I have changed my habits a little bit with what I eat for lunch. So I have mentioned this to people in the past, but if I go into the office, have a Greg's breakfast. And then I was also having a Greg's lunch. I don't do that anymore.
I should hope not. I mean, that's bad.
Oh yeah, it's really bad.
Greg's twice in one
day. But
also
you've got to think about where I work and what's available. There are better options now, much better options around to get things, and certainly I've been making the most out of that. And as I say, eating a lot better generally, trying to cut out the takeaways, and I have done that. I went to the chip shop the other day, and it was the first time I think I've been to the chip shop in about 2.5, 3 months that I'd actually been there. There was a point where I was going every single week.
I mean, how do you feel about fasting?
Terrible.
No?
I'm not great.
Never attempted it?
I'm just... Well, it's that thing I said to you earlier off air. If something winds me up, my first thought is, oh, I'm really annoyed, and I go and I'll be like, oh, I'm just going to have that biscuit there. I'm going to go and like I'll walk into Costa and buy myself a cup of tea, and then I'll go, oh, I'll have a biscuit with it, or I'll have a cake with it, and I shouldn't, but that's
it's
how it goes sometimes.
It's interesting because I mean I've been kind of drifting in and around it a little bit. Did it a bit many years ago, and I've kind of been looking at different options and this kind of extended hours thing of not stopping finishing off of an evening and then not having the breakfast and all that. So I've started been toying around that a little bit to see how that plays out, and because it becomes about discipline. And actually, I heard somebody sort of talking about this. That's the key, isn't it? It's those little discipline things that you can kind of factor in. But interestingly, and again, he always gets a mention because he's an absolute legend. Sean T. He talked about having a weekend of just drinking water and no other soft drink, tea, coffee, alcohol, whatever. Just that's an interesting challenge. Well,
it's an interesting point you made there about drinking the water, because I need to drink more water, and actually while we're recording, we're drinking some water now.
Yeah.
But it is a well-known thing to people who know me. I do drink far too much fizzy pop. And that's something I really want to cut down and stop doing. I do like a can of cola. Different brands of cola are available, shall we just say. But, I've got to sort of cut that down and do a lot more drinking of water and being a little bit more... I don't drink a lot of tea all the time. If I'm working from home, I tend to have a lot of cups of tea and things like that. But, yeah, more water, and I think that'll complement the better eating as well. And then adding into that, I do need to get into the exercise a bit more.
I was going to say, obviously this isn't a video cast, so people can't genuinely see this, but we are actually sat here with a bottle of water each, which is something, I suppose.
I mean, normally you do have a bottle of water, and I have a can of pop. So, to be fair, it's quite good that we're both drinking...
Well, I like the fact that on the way here today, you sort of messaged and had said... Don't bother about stopping off to pick up water. I have got some. So it's like
I got some this morning. I thought about it.
I didn't even realise that was in my season 3 contract, but now it is. It is. So
it's not in the contract. I just thought it was a nice thing to do.
I'm going to expect this every time now. Away from sort of the fitness. Would you believe it? I've got to have some fence panels replaced. So I'm certainly going to be losing some pounds there coming up, getting them sorted. Just not the pounds that we need to lose. And then I went to the dentist the other day. The year they're planning for me, dear me. I've got to have a couple of fillings in the next few weeks. So that's not great. And then I've got a wisdom tooth that's got to come out, right? And it's just like, And I don't know what was more painful. Was him talking about the pricing structure of taking it out than the actual thought of taking it out.
Have you had a wisdom tooth out before?
I had one out at hospital.
Yeah, I had to.
That wasn't fun, mainly because I then got on a plane with Mrs. Shelano. And I don't know if you've ever looked into this, but apparently that is not a great idea. It was only a few days later. But the pressure...
Oh, yeah, you're not supposed to do it.
Yeah, no, that wasn't great. And to be fair, it was quite painful on the plane, to the point where when we actually got to Spain, they gave me like 5 gin and tonics and knocked me out. Well, that's what happened. I literally just went out in terms of they just like, drink all this and just knock yourself out. But that's Mrs. Shelano's family for you know what I mean? Just, there you go. Knock that back, you'll be all right. I woke up 12 hours later in a skip. But, no, I'm joking. But, so those are things not to look forward to. But there's a positive. My book, one of my readers, buyers, however you want to look at it, would you believe, sent me a photograph of my book in front of the Sydney Opera House this week. And it was just, I don't know, that's just like really random to see that. That's bizarre, So that was quite fun. And that's another motivator around continuing the writing challenge. So I am on day 23 of my 100-day writing challenge. And yeah, I've made quite a lot of progress on that, I have to say, since New Year's Eve. In terms of, I've done now... I think just over 12,000 words this year. And it's that doing something every day, even if it's not a huge amount, but that's taking that progress forward. And I think that's the thing for me and you, because we are at these weights that are obviously a lot higher. It's that trying to make something then achievable is having that daily thing, isn't it, of keeping track of what you're doing, is that progress point. So I'm seeing that massive progress point in the delivery of the second book. And then, how you apply that to consistency in other things and mindset, really. Yeah, so that's proving to be a real positive. I'm not going to say too much about it at the moment. I'm still quite some way off a first draft. That's it. That's really kind of got me quite motivated around at the moment around all of that.
You're putting me to shame with some of these activities that you go through. I need to start having to think about some of this. I know we mentioned a few things in the past in sort of previous episodes, and I think I need to start catching up and having a look into some of that. But certainly...
Well, dare I say it, what about the 100-day exercise bike challenge? Or even, not even 100 days, even 30 days. I've stunned you into silence.
Maybe that's what we need to do. Maybe that's it.
That's...
Maybe I need to... You know what I think we should do? I know this is coming out in February. This is getting released. We're recording in January. Maybe that is the thing. Maybe all of February I get on the exercise bike and I set myself a task. Maybe the thing my dad mentioned, the song idea.
Yeah.
Play a song, get used to that then too. And we try and aim for the end of February to get to a set kind of time or number of songs or a time, just to get to a point where I'm actually feeling like, I'm doing some proper exercise and getting...
Well, I think the challenge you should...
The problem is as well now, I've put it on the podcast, Ruth will make me do it.
Well, good.
So that's good. So she will make sure I'm motivated to do it.
Because, you know...
I won't slack off.
You've got to have that motivation. You've got to have that there. I think that the challenge is, if you wanted to get to a good thing, is see if you can last all the way through something like Bohemian Rhapsody. You know, a really long song, as it build up from like the short intro. So if you can get through exercising to I'm Just a Poor Boy, but by the end you'll have got, Thunderbolts of Lightning, and all the way through the end. He's looking insulted now. Now he's like, you know what? Now you've said that, I'm going to make it so I can go through the whole album.
To be fair, I could quite easily listen to Queen and do the exercise bike. They're a fantastic band, so I could easily do a bit of that.
But the interesting question I was going to ask you is, in terms of when you were using the exercise bike a little bit more, what sort of times would you be able to stay on it for? Had you built?
I actually started to build some good endurance up on it. Well, I say that it wasn't great. It wasn't like anything some people can, but for me, it was good.
But that's the point. It's not about other people, though, is it? It's about improving yourself.
I don't totally know, but I did find when we first started doing the podcast, I was actually doing it regularly, and I got to a point where I just stopped, and I can't even remember what happened. Probably something that in reality is kind of stupid and inconsequential, but at the time, maybe had an effect on me and just stopped me from doing it. But yeah, I need to get back into that, and maybe that's it. So we'll start looking into that for February. I think that's a good one today.
I think the other thing about what you're talking about there is you and I are often the worst in terms of allowing external factors, I think, to be very destructive to mood and doing things. I think, and I have read a bit on this, and it says that that's almost one of the things that you have to control better, is how you respond to things when people either upset you or things go wrong, or all those kind of issues, is how you deal with that. And it shouldn't really be turning to something that's bad and giving up something that's good. I think that's the key. If you turn it to something good, that's going to turn it to something better. If you turn it to something bad, that's going to turn it to something worse. So I think there's an element of, again, it's that mindset challenge around all of that. So well, I think you need get those goals in place of what you want to achieve with the exercise bike in the February or whatever as you call it. But actually the key thing there, as I say, is documenting that you're doing it. So I'm putting on my website, shelanobooks.co.uk, shameless plug, and on various of my social media accounts, the amount of words I'm writing each day. So I will just say 100-day writing challenge, it's day whatever, this is what I did today, this many words, and then at the end give like a full target. So maybe you could do that. You could keep like a journal of February the 1st, this is how long I did, blah blah blah. Then when you get to the 28th, you'd be able to look back and go and see that progress.
That's a good idea.
I wonder if that's the sort of thing
that might be what we need to do.
So basically, in the nicest possible way, get on your bike. Just these are the things, you know. I mean, I'm joking aside. I mean, we're obviously talking a bit about the physical side of stuff now, but even like mentally, the feeling of an achievement as well of doing something. So that at the moment, where I'm trying to factor in, when am I going to write? Do you know what I mean? As in, I've had it before where you end up, you don't do it, you got other things going on, you don't plan it. When you're saying I'm doing this for 100 days, I'm then proactively looking day to day to day. When am I going to do that tomorrow? How long am I going to do? Where am I fitting it in? And actually then that's making it happen. So I can absolutely guarantee that if I hadn't done this 100-day writing challenge or started at all, I would be nowhere near the amount of writing I've done this year. Nowhere near. I know that for a fact. So, it is finding those things that ultimately hold you to account, I think, better. And holding ourselves to account better, obviously, on the podcast.
Just before we sort of finish up, it's probably worth just mentioning that we've got a few interviews planned for the season. We've got some really good content coming up there.
Yeah, we've got an episode coming up with a world champion. I won't say too much at this point.
We have indeed.
But yes, we have got an episode coming up with a world champion, which will be fantastic. So we're rattling on through season 3, it's just keep building as the year progresses. Really,
we will be back next week, hopefully with our first guest episode of the season, as T.A. just alluded to, with a world champion. So make sure you are sticking around for that, because it's a really great interview. So thank you very much, everybody, and we'll catch you next time.
Bye-bye.
Two best mates here to take you to stand. Raging Rich and T.A. got your health in the hands. Ray's lives and tales they tell. For beats and nights, the workouts, they're keeping it real.